Rey is a reincarnation of Anakin Skywalker. Alright, I know what you're thinking. Hear me out. Ever since we met our beloved character in Episode 7, The Force Awakens, I've always been curious on who Rey was connected to. Now I know there are many theories out there that she's the daughter of Kenobi, or a descendant of Luke, or even a child of the Emperor. But those don't make sense to me. Rey was raised on Jakku, where she learned to be a scavenger. She worked with a lot of tech and learned which pieces in a starship were valuable. When Finn and her escaped Jakku on the Millennium Falcon, she was able to traverse a scavenged field of debris with two First Order TIE fighters chasing her, also without a co-pilot. She even went inside an Imperial Star Destroyer, which was very narrow and small. She also lined up a shot for Finn to shoot because of a jammed gun. After they made it to space, they had an exciting conversation about how they pulled it off.
Like shooting.
Thanks.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
No
I've
one
run some
trained-
ships, but I've never left the planet. Your last
That was
ship dead.
amazing.
Oh,
You set me up for it. That was pretty good.
Even Finn asked her, "No one trained you? No one?" She didn't reply, which is an answer enough that she has never been trained. Also, later on in The Force Awakens, Rey was able to easily use a Jedi mind trick on a stormtrooper to release her restraints.
I will remove these restraints and leave the cell with the door open.
In The Last Jedi, Rey was a gunner in the Millennium Falcon. She fired one shot and took out 3 TIE fighters in one go, then many more later.
I like this.
How can someone fly a ship that chaotically and survive? They went up against the First Order TIE fighters and won, who must have had training as well. She was able to do a mind trick even though she has never done so before. And she was able to shoot down 3 TIE fighters in one shot. Now you might be thinking, what about the Force?
That's not how the Force works.
Rey has to have some sort of unnatural additive in order to for this to even make sense. Now, onto Anakin. Anakin was born and raised on Tatooine as a slave, similar to Rey, who, although not a slave, lives like one. Anakin worked with his master, Watto, who was a junk dealer. We know that Watto has knowledge of ships and parts. He must have passed it on to the boy to help him in his business, which in turn, Anakin was able to build a pod racer. No human has ever raced and lived in a pod race.
Has anybody ever seen a pod race? I'm the only human who can do it.
Anakin was able to come in first place in the pod race, taking the title as the first human to live and win in a pod race. Qui-Gon also did a blood test on Anakin to check his midi-chlorian count. Obi-Wan confirmed that his midi-chlorian count was off the chart, higher than Master Yoda.
Obi-Wan,
Yes, Master.
I need an analysis of this blood sample I'm sending you.
Wait a minute.
I need a midi-chlorian count.
The reading is off the chart. Over 20,000.
Even Master Yoda doesn't have a midi-chlorian count that high.
No Jedi has.
What does that mean?
I'm not sure.
Later on in Episode 1, Anakin was able to fly Naboo's starfighter to a droid command ship and take it out without help. It was his first time in space. Rey and Anakin both did extraordinary things that no ordinary person or human could ever do. I believe this means that Anakin and Rey are the chosen ones. In the book Darth Plagueis by James Luceno, we find out that Plagueis created Anakin. He was able to make Shmi bear a child without a father. I believe that fact is similar with Rey as well. Rey must have been born of the Force. My supporting facts take us to Episode 3 in a scene where Anakin and Palpatine spoke alone in an opera theater. And just before we go to my next point, Snoke has seen the Republic rise and fall. So has Darth Plagueis. Snoke and Darth Plagueis are the same person.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
No.
I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend. Darth Plagueis was a dark lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life. Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew. Then his apprentice killed him in his sleep. Ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself.
Right there, right there. He taught his apprentice everything he knew. Darth Plagueis knew how to create life from the midi-chlorians. Anakin was created that way. It's a fact that Palpatine knows this Force power. I think Palpatine created Rey in the same way Anakin was created. The only thing we don't know is his motivation, which leads me into my next point, which takes place later on in Episode 3 after Order 66.
To cheat death is a power only one has achieved. But if we work together, I know we can discover the secret.
Palpatine wanted to use Anakin to discover the secret of immortality. Technically, the Jedi have already done this. One example is Obi-Wan and Yoda turning into the Force ghosts. Everyone transforms into the Force once they die. Palpatine must have figured out a way to come back to the physical world because he was definitely transformed into the Force.
Good.
Now, I have some speculation on how Palpatine did it, but that takes us back to the comic book, Dark Empire, by Tom Veitch and Cam Kennedy. I know this isn't canon, but that doesn't mean that Disney can't take ideas from it and make it canon. This comic book takes place after Return of the Jedi. Luke senses that there is a disturbance in the Force. Later on, he finds out that Palpatine survived the Death Star through the use of clones. Luke tries to kill as many clones as he can, but Palpatine keeps going into one body after another. Luke had to surrender to Darth Sidious. In Episode 9, I believe Darth Sidious will come back in a cloned body. While in the same comic book, Darth Sidious threatens in person that he could use the Force to go into Leia and take over her own child that was in her belly. Palpatine created Rey so he could use the Force to enter Rey's body. Because Rey is born of the Force, she will have the same midi-chlorian count as Anakin, if not more, making Darth Sidious one of the most powerful Sith users ever known. And who knows, if he's able to pull this off, he could potentially live forever. Kylo Ren has a part to play in all of this, in Episode 9, of course. Like, he was visibly concerned in The Force Awakens when he found out that a girl helped BB-8 escape Jakku. So he choked an officer and said, "What girl?"
What girl?
So obviously Kylo Ren knows something about Jakku, because that's the first time a girl is mentioned about Jakku. Kylo Ren was seen speaking to Darth Vader's mask about his pull to the light and how Kylo Ren will finish what he started. But that makes no sense. Darth Vader ended up becoming a Force ghost and withdrew from the dark side. He wouldn't continue down the dark side by slaughtering the rest of the Jedi. Palpatine must be speaking to Kylo Ren through Darth Vader. In The Last Jedi, where he told Rey her parents were no one, he technically is right. If she is born of the Force mysteriously, her parents must have sold her off for drinking money. But since she was born of the Force, she would be a reincarnation of Anakin to be the next chosen one. She is still someone rather than no one. I have a couple of theories on the chosen one and how it works. I believe that every time the chosen one dies, they are reborn in the Force. It could be another species or another of the same. Throughout the ages, some will carry the midi-chlorians down their bloodline. Because once you're the chosen one, you get a huge chunk of midi-chlorians. After a few generations, one might become Jedi or a Sith. I think that's a probable answer because Disney would like to make Star Wars a family movie and keep with the family theme. It would be a family theme because everyone would technically be related to one another. Mace Windu and Obi-Wan would be related in the far, far past. So would Yoda and Anakin, even though they're different species. So with all this being said, Episode 9, what will happen? I think Rey will have no choice but to fall to the dark side. Kylo Ren will cease to be useful at some point in time and in Palpatine's point of view because, well, Rey is a lot more stronger and he would want to go inside Rey rather than Kylo Ren. Then somehow, I think Rey will become a gray Jedi, which is a balance between the light and the dark. To give into emotions but not too far. To be at peace but also feel anger. Maybe these gray Jedis will become Skywalkers since the film is going to be called Rise of Skywalker. So that's my theory about Rey and Episode 9. Let me know if you agree with me in the comments below, or hell, if you don't, let me know. I would love to hear more theories or even some counter arguments to what I have said. Thank you for watching this video. Please leave a like, and if you like this content, please subscribe for more.